we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
60 years ago, my father, President John F. Kennedy, announced his Moonshot, declaring that America would send a man to the moon within a decade.
We meet in an hour of change and challenge, in a decade of hope and fear, in an age of both knowledge and ignorance.
If my generation wants a better world, then we need to build it ourselves. That's what President Kennedy believed, and that's what powered his Moonshot.
It was a bold vision and a leap of faith. No one knew if it was possible. But my father believed that great challenges are great opportunities, and that together we could reach the stars.
Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
Today, his powerful words still resonate. They've become the inspiration for the Earthshot Prize as we take on the most urgent challenge we face: repairing and restoring our planet within the decade. The impossible is possible.
Hello, welcome everyone. On behalf of all the members of the Kennedy family, my cousin Matt Kennedy and his wife Kate, my wife Cheryl, and all of the members of the family, we're so honored to have you here today for this prize, which means so much to us. This particular event is really important to our family because it embodies three things that were really important to President Kennedy. The first was his belief in human imagination and human innovation and skill and scientific innovation. In fact, Jacqueline Kennedy said that she married JFK because he had imagination, and that was a very hard thing to find in a man. Most of the women laugh when I say that. The second is his commitment to the environment, and the third is his belief that arts were essential to a free society, to the success of a free society. President Kennedy is known for the Moonshot, but he was also an environmentalist who established the Cape Cod National Seashore. He defended Rachel Carson, who wrote Silent Spring, against the attacks from the American chemical industry when her book was criticized, and that was really the beginning of the modern environmental movement. And lastly, of course, he envisioned the National Endowment for the Arts and Humanities, and our National Performing Arts Center is named in his honor. And like the entrepreneurs that we're honoring today, President Kennedy was a visionary who was not afraid to take risk. In fact, he said that only those who dare to fail miserably can succeed greatly. And he also, at the same time, described himself as an idealist without illusions. So he had this combination of idealism and realism, of practicality and vision that has rarely been seen since. And he described the Moonshot as an act of faith and vision, not a scientific certainty. And when he made the Moonshot speech on September 12, 1962, 62 years ago today, the leaders of NASA were watching that speech, and they were shocked because they had no idea how to get a man to the moon by the end of the decade. But President Kennedy was right that that effort would organize the best of our energies and talents. And on July 24th, 1969, when the Apollo capsule splashed down in the sea and every astronaut was safely aboard the USS Hornet, a message appeared on the NASA leaderboard in Houston, and it said, "Mr. President, mission accomplished." So we have done the impossible once before, and we can do it again. Today we're facing another daunting and important challenge, but it is the same sort of faith and vision that we are honoring today. On this new perilous frontier of a changing environment, the individuals we are honoring today are leading the way. But you know, there was one thing that I learned growing up in the Kennedy family, and that is that nobody does anything by themselves. When President Kennedy went to NASA to visit prior to the speech, he stopped and asked a janitor what his job was and what he was doing. And he said, I'm helping to put a man on the moon. And everybody here, through your presence, your interest, your dedication to this issue, our donors, Sandy Edgerly, thank you, are committing and forwarding this issue of our stewardship and our inheritance, this planet that we all love and cherish. So now I'd like to thank you for that. And then I'd like to introduce our own visionary leader, Rachel Floor, who is a servant leader who serves by example, whose hard work, whose dedication, whose humility is an example and an inspiration to everybody at the library. And as Chesterton said, a great man or a great woman is someone who makes others feel great. And Rachel does that through her example every day. So we're so lucky and proud to have her. And without further ado, Rachel will recognize our distinguished guests. And thank you very much, all of you, for coming.
Thank you, Stephen. I so appreciate your words and your dedication to the library and this legacy. And I'm so grateful to be able to welcome everyone here tonight to the JFK Library. We are so excited to be with you. Here at the Kennedy Library Foundation, we believe that history is more than just a series of dusty events in the rearview mirror. We work hard to help young people understand how the lessons of the past can both be inspirational and instructive, an opportunity to reflect on successes and failures, challenge and possibility. Back in 2020, when Prince William announced his Global Prize for the Environment and that it had been inspired by President Kennedy's Moonshot speech, we couldn't believe it. In connecting President Kennedy's vision to the greatest challenge of our own time, he was doing exactly what we hope to inspire in the thousands of young people who we engage with every year, just on a slightly larger scale. The spirit of the Earthshot Prize was so perfectly aligned with our work that we did something I never thought to ever put on my work bingo card. We contacted Kensington Palace and asked how we could help. And to my surprise, we heard back right away. Prince William and the incredible Earthshot Prize team, led by Hannah Jones, welcomed us to the movement with open arms. We quickly signed on to be part of the program's Global Alliance partners. The following year, Caroline Kennedy invited Prince William to host the 2022 Earthshot Prize ceremony here in President Kennedy's hometown of Boston. And the rest, as they say, is history. His Royal Highnesses, the Prince and Princess of Wales, touched down at Logan Airport on November 30th, 2022. They lit City Hall up green, visited local innovation hubs, spent a cold and windy morning on Boston Harbor, toured the Kennedy Library, and announced the 5 2022 Earthshot Prize winners that each received £1 million to scale their solutions. Now this brings me back to the business of history. From the start, we knew that we wanted to the impact of the Earthshot Prize in this region to be more than just a line in the city's historical records of royal visits. Together with Mayor Wu and our Earthshot Prize host committee, generously led by Sandy and Paul Edgerly, we committed to creating a legacy of environmental progress that would honor the past by investing in the future. I'm so proud to say that this commitment is being realized here tonight. Through the Earthshot Innovation Challenge, we are working to find and support the most innovative climate solutions here in the Northeast United States. And we're so excited to be celebrating our first winners with you all. Through this program, we aim to create a blueprint for Earthshot Prize ceremony cities globally, establishing an Earthshot legacy of impact in each region of the planet throughout the Earthshot decade. None of this work could be possible without the support and commitment of our partners who believe in this vision and being part of the solution. We're grateful for our board and board of advisors, Kate Brum and the team at Mass Challenge, who supported tonight's finalists in creating story pitches for their environmental solutions, Matt Schechner and Hervé Sekti, and the team at Emerald and Advertising Week for helping put the programming together, and our generous underwriters of the Kennedy Library Forum Series, who helped bring this and other special programming to the library. Bank of America, the Lowell Institute, CVS Health, the Mass Cultural Council, and our media sponsor, the Boston Globe. And of course, our wonderful judges, expert judges, including a few who are here tonight, Carrie Bowie, Bob Chen, Todd Hines, Vicki Sproul, and Vernon Walker. And we especially are grateful for our special guest who we're going to hear from tonight, Chuck Leavell. Brilliant keyboardist, pianist, and conservationist. We're so grateful you can be here tonight. And most of all, I want to express my gratitude to Sandy and Paul, who've been leading this effort since the beginning, and to our other generous Earthshot legacy partners, Karen and Rob Hale, Wick Grausbeck, and Amelia Fazzolari, who came on board when this idea was just a kernel and helped to make it a reality. Thank you all. Now, we are so honored to have here tonight the most committed climate mayor in America, Michelle Wu. Mayor Wu's ambitious vision for addressing climate change and environmental damage was an important factor in the Earthshot Prize's decision to host the United States ceremony here in Boston. We were proud to partner with the mayor and her team to showcase Boston's global standing as a pioneer in innovation, as well as a top destination in environmental sustainability and investment. Just as President Kennedy knew that getting to the moon would have benefits to life on Earth beyond space travel, Mayor Wu has challenged us to do more than save the life of our planet by doing it in a way that advances justice, equality, and a habitable, it's a tough one, planet. We're so grateful to be able to continue this partnership with the mayor to inspire deeper and more equitable impact and investment in climate solutions here in the Northeast. Thank you, Mayor, for being here to say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Rachel, for your leadership, and to everyone for this incredible gift that we have here in Boston of not only carrying the distinction of living with the legacy of our history, but having the determination and the helping hands from all around, the collaboration to make sure that history continues to be lived out in setting a foundation for the future. There are so many incredible people here gathered to thank and recognize, so I know I'm going to leave off some of the very impactful folks who are key to this incredible innovation, as well as the work that's happening in Boston. Thank you to board member Stephen Kennedy Smith for being with us, and for all that you do to keep your uncle's memory alive here at the JFK Library Foundation. And to all the board members. Thank you to our British Consul General to New England, David Clay. It was a delight to partner with the previous Consul General on something other than our 4th of July celebrations, which were always a little bit of a sore spot. And so being able to work on Earthshot together was beautiful. Thank you, of course, to Sandy and Paul, to Karen and Rob, to all those who have made it possible in so many ways for Boston to be the leading example of what it means for us to come together and really dream and innovate and then charge forward ahead. We have many leaders across different organizations and anchor institutions. I hear Madam President Lynn Perry-Wooten of Simmons University is in the house. And again, thank you to Emerald and everyone from the team there. Being here with so many familiar faces 2 years after Earthshot brings back the memories of learning all of the proper protocols and procedures to be able to properly welcome our guests, but also seeing the excitement that they brought and unlocked in our own community across every demographic of Boston, that this would be our legacy here. the type of moonshot that we're applying to climate, the announcement that President Biden made right here in Boston as well for a cancer moonshot. This is the region, this is the city that has always been the place where people come with big ideas to change the world. And now, what more impactful way for us to do so than by continuing the legacy of Earthshot? The people in this room are a testament that climate change is the single most important issue we face today across the survival, the health, the well-being, and prosperity of future generations, and that our solutions must be as collaborative as they are creative. So I want to congratulate all of the finalists, Afterlife Ag, Cellsense, and It's Electric, from giving food waste new life in the form of fresh mushrooms, getting microplastics and fossil fuels out of fashion, to partnering with cities, including Boston, to expand curbside EV charging. We are so lucky to have you leading the way on this creative, life-saving work for all of us and our planet. Now, I know everyone is here to hear from Chuck, so I will just close out with this. This is just the first year of the Earthshot Innovation Challenge, but Aradita, Tia, Winson, you have all set a very high bar. As a coastal city and a city determined to remain on the front lines of the effort to keep our planet livable for generations to come, the city of Boston is behind you and next to you every step of the way, and we can't wait to see what comes next for all of us. Thank you again so much to everyone here, and congratulations.
I'm so pleased now to turn things over to Sandy Edgerly, who has done so much for the city of Boston, for the Earthshot Prize, and for the Kennedy Library. Sandy is supporting the Earthshot Innovation Challenge not only personally, but also through the Quinn Impact Fund, which she co-founded with her husband, Paul. Both Sandy and Paul set the highest standards in their efforts to give back to our community, answering President Kennedy's call time and time again as they ask what they can do for our city, for our country, and for our world. It's a great tribute to President Kennedy that we have the opportunity to partner with you, Sandy, on this effort. Please join me in welcoming her to the stage.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for those words and also for your extraordinary leadership. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Mayor. I stand here this evening so inspired by the innovators in this room who are on the front lines of sustainability and climate justice, helping this region move forward towards a net zero world. Paul and I were so honored to join with Prince William, the Kennedy Library, and the City of Boston to host the Earthshot Prize ceremony in 2022. For those of you who were there, it was an extraordinary evening. It was truly unforgettable, a historic moment for our city, filled with urgent optimism that lit a spark and catalyzed new energy and investment in the effort to repair the planet. And as important has been the ongoing effort to keep the Earthshot spirit alive in this region, to deepen its impact and to lift up climate innovators in the United States. Like President Kennedy's Moonshot more than 60 years ago, the Earthshot Innovation Challenge celebrates what is possible when people join together in pursuit of a common goal. Together with the Quinn Impact Fund, I'm so proud to support the unparalleled talent and creative spirit that make this region a world-class hub of innovation and human achievement. Our three finalists, Afterlife Ag, Cellsense, and It's Electric, rose to the top of 70 incredibly impressive nominations that we received this year from various sectors: academia, nonprofit, and for-profit. Many nominees presented ideas that not only support economic, environmental sustainability, but also have positive social impacts, such as increasing job creation and improving working conditions in manufacturing. We're grateful to the group of expert panelists, including leaders in education and the environment, entrepreneurship, and climate justice, that carefully screened all of the submissions and presented a list of finalists to the selection committee. I was honored to serve on that committee along with fellow Earthshot legacy partners Karen Hale. Karen and her husband, Rob, are among the most philanthropic and dedicated people that I know in Boston and in the whole country. So thank you so much for being a part of this, Karen. And Amelia Fazzolari, along with Lindy von Muschis, director of the Salata Institute, the Climate Action Accelerator. And we were grateful, as always, for the wisdom and guidance of Earthshot Prize CEO, the incomparable Hannah Jones. The Earthshot Prize is all about finding hope, and that is what this experience has meant for me. Getting to know these solutions that are working so hard to make a difference for the future of the planet really does inspire optimism in the face of what can sometimes feel like an impossible challenge. So we're so thrilled to have our 3 finalists here with us this evening. Afterlife Ag, which upcycles food waste to build local, sustainable mushroom farming in New York City. Cellsense, who is transforming algae and cellulose into biodegradable embellishments for clothing and other fashion items. And It's Electric, which is solving the largest barrier cities face in the deployment of public electric vehicle charging. Each of them is amazing, as you will soon find out, and each will walk out tonight a winner. The first place prize is $100,000, and $25,000 will be awarded to each of the other honorees, representing $150,000 in investment towards climate solutions in this region. All 3 of tonight's finalists will also be officially nominated for the Global Earthshot Prize in 2025. Now I'm pleased to let our finalists introduce themselves, starting with a few words from Prince William.
The urgency needed to save the planet is ever accelerating, while the time we have to make meaningful changes is ebbing away. But just as President John F. Kennedy had faith that humankind could put a man on the moon, I have the same faith today that we can repair and regenerate our planet in this critical decade. From Moonshot to Earthshot, the seemingly unsolvable can be solved.
My family has been in the food business pretty much my entire life. And from a very young age, I just remember my dad focused on not wasting food. My name is Winston Wong. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Afterlife Ag. Afterlife Ag is a circular mushroom farming company. We take organic waste that would otherwise go into landfills from restaurants, grocery stores. We process it, we compost it, and then we turn it into a substrate that we would use to grow mushrooms with, and then we provide those mushrooms back to the people that give us that waste. The challenge was a lot of the food waste that we generate is very contaminated, especially in urban cities. When you put all the waste into the same bin, it doesn't really get reused, it gets thrown into landfills. So that's the problem that I really wanted to solve and figure out what to do with it. And mushrooms and fungi and mycelium is actually one of the best organisms in this world that could decompose waste. It can decompose plastics, it can clean up oil spill. There's just so much potential with mushrooms. And we're just starting with food waste and using that to grow fresh local produce. My hope is to be able to grow more farms all across the country. But I would say more importantly, I want to work with waste management companies to say that potentially there is another way to deal with your compost, and really thinking about other people using that medium and that material as a way to create more value.
I grew up in Gujarat, which is the textile hub of India. And growing up there, I witnessed firsthand the negative impacts of synthetic dyes on the local environment and the artisans. Over 60 billion embellished products are made annually, and although embellishments are small in size, their social and environmental impact is massive. I'm Aradhita. I'm the CEO and founder of Cellsense. We transform renewable raw materials like algae and cellulose into sustainable and scalable biomaterials for the fashion industry. We realized that a complete reimagining of the processes and the materiality for embellishments is required. So by looking to nature, we found materials that are both regenerative and abundant. And after conducting over 130 tests, we've developed a proprietary method to transform algae and cellulose into materials that are both compostable as well as durable. And this will be a shift from beads that take 200 years to decompose to beads that decompose in only 4 weeks. Now, with the support of the Earthshot, we would be able to get some of the machinery to automate some manual aspects of our work, with which we can hit milestones like producing 1,000 embellishments an hour. It's all about using sustainable materials while still producing a cost-competitive, high-performing product.
President Kennedy inspired the best of ourselves to bring forth solutions. At It's Electric, we always say power from the people. And that's what we've tried to invent by building electric vehicle charging that's specifically for cities. My name is Tia Gordon, and I am the co-founder of It's Electric. The inspiration for It's Electric was born during the pandemic. I live in Brooklyn. I live in an apartment. My entire life I've taken public transportation. And I thought I should perhaps look at getting a car if I had to get out of the city to reach my family. I had to cross an EV off right away because when I looked to see where I could actually charge an electric vehicle in Brooklyn in 2021, and the answer was basically about 15 miles from where I lived, cities like New York, like Boston, like DC have challenges because up until now, the way that electric vehicle chargers were installed in cities where they were designed to all connect to the main utility lines. What It's Electric realized was that every building is exactly at that right level of energy. So we just pull what's known as spare capacity from the building, run a very small conduit below the sidewalk, stand that up on the charger, which sits on the curb, and then to thank that building for letting us tap into their panel, we revenue share back to them. The very first city that we'll be calling home will be Boston. Mayor Wu and her Green New Deal has an incredible objective of having a public electric vehicle charger within a 5-minute walk of every Bostonian. My hope for the future of It's Electric is that we are synonymous with curbside charging in cities across the country. If you can just charge your car with the same ease that you can charge your phone, that's the future.
Well, please join me again in celebrating these 3 incredible eco-innovators. What amazing finalists. So, Winston, Tia, and Ari, we're so inspired by you and so proud to be supporting you with grants to scale your solutions. So now I feel like I need an envelope or something to announce the winner, but I'm delighted to share that the winner of the 2024 Earthshot Innovation Challenge and the $100,000 first place prize to celebrate their impact is Afterlife Ag. So.
Wow. This is crazy. Thank you so much. I'm extremely grateful and appreciative of this prize. It will really help towards, honestly, building our company and scaling our operations, and hopefully soon in Boston, to be perfectly honest. Boston is the perfect city for building what we're building. I really want to thank you, the John F. Kennedy Library Foundation, the Quinn House Impact Fund, and the Earthshot Legacy Partners for supporting this challenge. and kickstarting this in the Northeast region. I also want to congratulate It's Electric and Cellsense. I'm very excited to chat with you further after this event, because founders need to support each other, and I'm excited to see how we can all work together. Yeah, so I think when I first applied to this challenge, you know, I was really thinking about just like how I got started, and the reality was I had no idea what I was doing. I was working in corporate for a while, and I just really wanted to build something that can do good. I didn't know what I wanted to build. I didn't know what to build. And essentially what I did was I just started learning, which is what John F. Kennedy really talked about, is about gaining new knowledge and then providing and sharing that knowledge to everyone involved. And I just started talking to people, and everyone I realized was very supportive of what I wanted to do. I started talking to our advisors, our team, and just people even in this room, which I'm very excited to meet all of you later. And for me, I think, you know, I'm ready to share that knowledge. I'm ready to grow this company, and I'm excited to build progress towards what's possible. And climate change is real, and we need everyone in this room to support it. And being here tonight, everyone here, I know you're already going to, and I'm excited to be playing a small part in this and to be able to build towards the larger goal together. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Please join me in congratulating all of our finalists tonight. We would love to have Tia and Ari come up and accept your awards as well. And one final picture.
Okay. Oh, here we go. I wasn't planning on saying this, but when I was young, my Uncle Ted gave us a book called Words Jack Loved, which were quotes that President Kennedy really treasured. And one of those quotes was that the whole earth is the tomb of great men, from Pericles, and their memory is left without visible symbol, woven into the stuff of other lives. And I just can't help sitting here listening to Sandy Edgerly and Karen Hale and our winners. There are certain people in cities, in nations, who quietly make a difference and who pass something on to others. And there's so many people in this room who are those type of people. So please give them a hand. So I really get the pleasure of introducing Chuck Leavell now. And I have to say that when I was invited to come do this, I looked at his biography and I saw that he had played with Little Richard, the Allman Brothers, George Harrison, the Rolling Stones, the list goes on and on. I got so excited that I signed up for his piano course, even though I don't play piano. I'm really serious. So, Chuck, you have already cost me $69.95. And if you can teach me to play piano, you should get the Medal of Freedom, because nobody comes to the Kennedy Library to hear the Kennedys perform music. All we do is talk, okay? When my Uncle Ted starts singing Sweet Adeline, everyone leaves the room. So President Kennedy had the vision to propose the National Endowment for the Arts and Humanities. and he believed that art was essential to a free society. He said that our national strength matters, but the spirit which informs and controls that strength matters more, and that while power corrupts, poetry cleanses, and art establishes those basic human truths which must serve as the touchstone of our judgment. So he believed the arts were important. And he also used to tell this story. He said the great French Marshal Lautny once asked his gardener, to plant a tree. And the gardener said, "But Marshal, it will not bloom for 100 years. The Marshal replied, "In that case, plant it this afternoon." He emphasized the importance of taking action, even when results won't be seen for a long time. He believed in thinking ahead, in making investments in the future, and laying the groundwork for progress that may not come to fruition immediately, but will benefit future generations. And Chuck, with your art and your commitment to the environment, you embody the things that John F. Kennedy respected. Chuck Leavell's keyboard work has been heard in the work of Eric Clapton, the Rolling Stones, George Harrison, the Allman Brothers, the Black Crowes, Train, John Mayer, David Gilmour, and many other artists. His association with the Stones began in 1982 and is still going strong. Chuck is also an artist in his own right, his latest release being Chuck Gets Big on BMG Records with a 17-piece big band. He's also a celebrated environmentalist and conservationist. He's the author of 4 books, and he's the host of a TV program on PBS called America's Forest. His documentary, The Tree Man, has garnered praise as one of the best rock docs in history. And he and his wife, Rose Lane Leavell, live on a 4,000-acre award-winning tree farm called Charlene Woodlands in Bullard, Georgia. Chuck also plays quarterback for the Boston Patriots, and he beat Joey Chestnut in a hot dog eating contest. Chuck, I would thank you for your artistic environmental leadership and all you've given our country. And I would also like to introduce and thank Dana Jacobson, who's the host of CBS Saturday Morning. And also, for all of you Boston sports fans, she's a leading sports commentator who appears on NFL Today, and we're looking forward to this dialogue. Chuck, I would love to stay, but I have to get home and start playing piano and planting trees. Please welcome Chuck Leavell.
Dana, so great to be with you.
It is so good to see you.
Yeah.
It is so good to see you. So you all need to know. Also, I thought what you were going to say is, I am half Bostonian too. Sports fans, Grandy and Max, the Grandy is my other half. So he is not here tonight, but I represent as well. Chuck and I had the privilege of meeting Chuck a few years back when we were doing a story for CBS Saturday Morning on Capricorn Records and the studio being refurbished. And we sat there talking. He is as good of a guy and as great of a guy as that bio sounds like, but you spend a minute literally in his presence. You're like, I love him, he's great. And then I was learning all about the other work he does. So I'm so thrilled to sit with him again and share some of this. And we are going to get to forestry and the environment, of course, but we have to start with the music. Because, I mean, that list, when you watch The Tree Man and you see all those names coming out to talk about you, first of all, how did you just start playing piano and getting into music?
Well, I learned to play from my mom. And Mom could play. She was not a teacher or a professional or anything, but she played for family enjoyment. We had a little spinet piano in the house. And I was the youngest of 3 children. My brother, 14 years my elder, my sister, 5 years my elder. And so with them in school when I'm 5, 6 years old, Dad out working, me and Mom in the house. And I just loved to listen to her play. I'd tug on her skirt, Mama, play me something. Oh my goodness, I was so excited. Her hands moving up and down that keyboard and hearing these beautiful sounds and everything. And she would get me on the stool sometimes. and show me little simple things, little simple triads and melodies and things. Sometimes as a form of babysitting, she would leave me on that stool and she'd say, well, Chuck, I got to go do my work over here, but you just sit here and you can practice on something that I've shown you, or you can just make something up. It doesn't matter. Just have fun.
Better than an iPad.
Yeah, better than an iPad. So after a year or so of this, I began to sort a few things out with the puzzle there, and I was really enjoying it. I loved to play. And so at the tender young age of about 7, Dana, I had this epiphany. This is what I wanted to do with my life's work, little 7-year-old kid. So I've been up in the room thinking about this, and I was excited, and I said, I got to tell Mom. So I ran downstairs and called her name. Mama, Mama, I found her in the kitchen. She could tell I was worked up, And I said, Mama, I got something really important to tell me. She said, Chuck, goodness, son, what's the matter? You're all excited and everything. I said, Mama, I've made a big decision. A big decision. Okay, well, son, take a deep breath and tell me, what have you decided? I said, Mama, I've decided I want to be a musician when I grow up. And she smiled and looked down and said, honey, you can't do both. And she was right.
And she was right.
I still struggle with that 2-word phrase, responsible adult. Do you know the difference between a musician and a municipal bond? Municipal bond eventually matures and makes money.
Well, I think we're all thankful that you have not matured in that regard. Did you know that you were special, or when did you know that you were special?
No, listen, that was years of, sticking with it and practicing, as Steve will learn, since he's taking the lessons now. Through the good graces of others that would spend time with me and teach me things and show me things. I never took real formal lessons. I did take for about 6 months when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old. And I decided I'd rather be outdoors playing ball with my friends. But I would always gravitate back to the piano, always, and then British invasion hit, and I learned to play guitar a little bit. We had our first band, the Misfits, M-I-S-F-I-T-Z. You had to have the Z to be cool. And we played the YMCA every Friday night. And then the first television station came to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where I grew up. And they wanted to have a Saturday morning TV program. And so they liked American Bandstand, and they very cleverly called our program Tuscaloosa Bandstand. And we were the band, and we had a DJ named Tiger Jack Garrett that was the MC of the program. And I hate that, this is back in the 60s, right? 67, I guess, 66. And, there was videotape, but because it was so expensive, they had to reuse it. And so there's no documentation of this, which is maybe a good thing.
Maybe it's good. You never know.
But I do remember one funny thing, and that is way before digital technology and all that stuff. So, we'd be playing a song, and the guitar player's name was Ronnie. And Ronnie would be doing a solo, and they'd hold a placard up, right, to the camera. Gut plucking Ronnie. Go get him, Chuck,
Do you, that list, obviously that was read, the Rolling Stones, the Allman Brothers, you're playing with David Gilmour from Pink Floyd, and then you get into some of the younger people, like a John Mayer, Train. Is there one thing, or I guess how would you say one of them influenced you the most? And I know many of us think of the Rolling Stones the most because it's been so long, but who was it that really had that big influence on you?
Ray Charles. Ray Charles. My parents had that wonderful record called Modern Sounds in Country and Western Music that Ray had done, and it was just brilliant. And my sister had a date to go see Ray, and my parents had some other event that they were going to, and I guess I was been maybe 12 or something, 13 maybe. And they didn't want to leave me alone, so they asked Judy, my sister, would you take Chuck? And she graciously said, yeah, I'll take little brother along. But man, oh man, that thing just blew my mind. Ray, of course, incredible, but he had Billy Preston playing Hammond organ on the band, and he had Fathead Newman playing saxophone, the Raylettes, great singers, and the band was so powerful and dynamic. And you know, when I left and I was already beginning to play, you know, I was a struggling little young musician, but when I heard all of that, that was it. You know, it's like, well, you know, I won't be a doctor, a lawyer, or any of those things, but if I could ever, not necessarily be in a band like that, but if I could ever be in a band that could move people like the way that just moved me, that's my mission.
You've been a part of so many. You just finished with the Rolling Stones on tour. I'm sort of wondering, by the way,
Some of you see the Hackney Diamonds? Anybody? Down at Gillette Stadium, we were there.
They're not stopping, right?
No, I don't think so. You know, of course, we lost Charlie Watts, and that was such a sad thing. Gosh, Charlie was just an amazing individual, a human being, funny, witty, and such a wonderful drummer. Can I give you a Charlie Watts story?
Please.
I'll try.
No, we don't want to hear it, right?
I love Charlie so much, and he was a great fashionista. He loved clothes, he loved art, he had an eye for art. I didn't care if it was art on a wall or antique furniture, flatware. He just loved art and design and everything. So all of his clothes were custom-made, tailor-made. All of his shoes were handmade, placed in Jermyn Street in London. And he had tailors all over the world. I visited some of them with him. And so he had this great sense of fashion. So here's the story. We're at a party in London. This is years and years ago. And we're at a corner, and there's Keith and Richards and myself and Charlie just chit-chatting. And this gentleman walks up. I don't know who he was. I'm not sure he knew any of the other two guys, but he walked up, and he was beautifully dressed, had a really gorgeous tailor-made suit on, and dapper, you know. And Charlie paid him a compliment. Ooh, nice suit, mate. Really nice suit, you know. So the guy lets up. He's like, oh, yeah, Charlie paid me a compliment. This is great. So we chat for a minute. Then he turns to walk away. As soon as he gets out of earshot, Charlie says, too bad about the shoes.
Good thing he spared him from that moment.
I love that guy.
I love this quote. You said, it's my job to keep Mick, Keith, Charlie, and Ronnie all happy. I just want to know how you do that.
Lessons in diplomacy, I guess. No, it's what I meant by that is, you know, to make them feel as comfortable as possible. Anything that I can do to, you know, support them, right? To make Keith feel like, hey, I've got your back. You know, Charlie, I got your back. Mick, I got your back. You know, it's my job to watch Mick when he's running up and down. I mean, sometimes he gets a little overexcited, you know, and he may forget a lyric or forget exactly where he is, and you know, I'm the guy he can turn to and say, you know, give hand signals sometimes, you know, verse, chorus, solo, you know, we have these little hand signals, you know? But that's what I meant by that, and I find that role in just about anybody I work with. I want them to be happy. You know, when I'm going into a recording session, first thing is, what are you looking for me? You know, to the producer and to the artist. What do you guys? Should I step out? Are you looking for, you know, some flash, or do you want me to lay back, just some color? You know, and the song. What is this song asking me to do?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all I need is just listen to the song. You know.
It's so exactly what you are talking about. By applause, I'm curious, how many people have seen The Tree Man? Yeah.
Wow.
The rest of you, find it. I think it's on Prime. You can just find it. It is the best 90 minutes of your time that you will spend if you have any interest in Chuck or the environment. I learned so much about you in both facets, and every artist that talks about him says the exact same thing and says that in the way that you make them better. The part that I had never heard was the environmental part. Yeah. And while I now know the answer, I'll ask you, for those that don't know, how did you get into forestry and sustainable forestry, which you are now an awarded member of that community?
And I will get into that, but when you talk about all these people that said nice things, you know, $20 goes a long way.
I don't buy it. I've spent a little time with you. I know it is all true.
No, when you ask about the environmental stuff, all my wife's fault, all Rose Lane's fault. You know, we've been married 51 years now, so thank you. But when we started dating and decided we wanted to get married, and the time came, she said, well, you've got to come meet my family. I said, well, Rosie, you never told me anything about your family. And she said, well, you'll see. So they lived not far from Macon. We, at the time, had migrated to Macon, Georgia, working at Capricorn, where you were so kind to come do that segment on. And so, first of all, they're farmers. They're country people, right? And they lived, you know, about 30 miles outside of Macon. And I'll give you a quick story about her father, you know, Mr. Al. He got all the boys together, because here comes this hippie boy. You know, there's rumors that they've heard about who I am, right? And yeah, Rose Lane's been up there. Rosie, by the way, was working at Capricorn. That's how we met. She was the assistant to the vice president, and she had a very strong role in the company and was doing a great job, and I stole her away. But so the family has heard a little bit about me, and Mr. Al got all the boys together, and he said, listen, Rosalind's bringing this boy out here, and he's a little different. He plays in a band, and it's not a country band. And I understand he's got long hair and maybe a beard. I don't know what he's going to wear when he comes out here. There ain't no telling. But apparently they're getting kind of serious, so don't make fun of him. That's a true story, and they opened their arms to me wide, and it was just a beautiful thing. I was nervous, as you can imagine. You know, here's hippie boy coming out to meet this farming family. But what happened was, okay, everything's going great. We start spending weekends in the country, holidays, of course, and her grandmother was still living, and her uncles, and it was a big family thing. They all worked the land, and they all had this incredible respect and reverence for the land, you know, and they tended cattle, they tended forest land, and they had row crops. But they so revered and you know, just the land was everything. And every time I would go out there, we'd take a little trip around the property or something. They would teach me a little bit about what they were doing, why they were doing it. And so that began to rub off on me and fascinated me, really. Then fast forward several years later, I guess a dozen or so years later, her grandmother passes away, and she left some land to her and some land to her brother. And all of a sudden, you know, we're responsible for this property, for this land. We knew family land. We certainly didn't want to sell it. We wanted to keep it. Weren't sure what to do with it. We wanted to do the right thing. We just weren't sure what the right thing was. Well, we both embarked on a journey, but I especially went to the library. I checked out books on land use and you know, went to meetings and seminars, went to government sources, which were quite helpful, actually. And one day we're at the breakfast table, and my brother-in-law, who is unfortunately deceased now, but whom I adored, and I felt more of a brother than brother-in-law, and taught me so much about country living and running tractors and looking after land and so forth. And Alton said to me, you know, there's this 50-acre field up here that we usually plant corn or cotton or something. And he said, if you're not going to do that, you might consider planting trees. I thought, trees. And the first thing that came to mind was, where does that thing that's given me so much joy and such a great career come from? From the forest, you know. And so that gave me a mission. Not that I would grow the type of trees that go to make musical instruments, but a way of giving back to what has been so good to me. And that became my mission. So I started studying forestry. And in the mid-'80s, I was traveling with the fabulous Thunderbirds. You remember anybody? Yeah. And I had enrolled in a correspondence course on forestry, and it took about a year. Now, listen, that's not like taking 4 years of college and going through an ag program, so you know, don't think that I have that much knowledge. But that correspondence course really helped me out a lot. It gave me some confidence, enough confidence to think, I can do this, I can manage this properly, and I hope I can do a good job.
One of the things that I especially think about now because it's what we've been talking about in the news with so many forest fires once again burning out west, wildfires. You talk about controlled burns.
Yes.
And the impact. Share some of your wisdom with all of us here.
Well, there's so many things that we could be doing. That's one tool. Let's talk about it. In the Southeast, it's been a common practice for a long time. We learned it from the Native Americans. They use fire in their lands to help their hunting and to clear for agriculture. So we can get permitted pretty easily, and we've been doing it so long that we know how to do it, right? Mm-hmm. Very rarely do we have a problem with any prescribed burns in the Southeast. We're talking, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and even parts of Florida, although Florida has had some wildfires to get out. But out west, it's a different story, right? I mean, there's a lot of regulation. I think regulating is a good thing out there. You have to be careful. You have to make sure. But it's not as common. And so years go by, and the litter builds up in the forest. Lightning strikes, somebody throws a cigarette out, a spark from a train, anything that can happen to start that fire. And when you've got that much buildup of litter, boom, there it goes. Yeah. And there's hardly any stopping it. So, I mean, the good news is, Steve was kind enough to mention my program, America's Forests. We did an episode in California. And a couple of things of interest. Gavin Newsom had started this program where they would take what we call mulching machines along the sides of highways and grind up and mulch all that litter and get rid of it for about 300 feet or so. 100 yards, 150 yards on either side of the highway. So if something does happen and a fire starts, CAL FIRE has a bigger chance to get there and put it out before it gets into that bad stuff. And the other thing was we did see a community in the northern part of California that was working with the surrounding areas, with the community, with the towns, having meetings like this and saying, listen, we would like to start doing some prescribed burns, and we want you to be comfortable. We want to explain to you what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. We would like to start with a little 5-acre section over here so you can actually see what we're going to do and how it works. And, the more you can get people, because they get out there, they're scared of fire, as they damn well should be. If fire gets out, look what happened to the Paradise.
It's
unbelievable.
Awful.
We went there during our California segment. I've never seen anything like it. Yeah. So little things are being done, and we need to do more. Hey, funding, personnel, machinery, the helicopters and the planes that we need to try to suppress the fires, all need to be done. And policy, forest policy, on a national level and on a regional level as well. Very, very important.
When we talk about climate change, and we are in an election year, and it's something that matters.
Yep.
I'm thinking two things, of the role that forestry can play in that, in climate change, and then overall where we are.
Yes. Well, a little bit of history. Jamestown was founded in 1604, I think, and by 1640, there was 28,000 documented Europeans living in the country. By 1800, there was 4 million. By 1892, there was 70 million. By 1900, we were growing at 1 million a year. At present, we have 333 million people in our country and 8 billion over the planet. I mean, just that incredible exponential growth tells you that there's going to be pressure on our natural lands, on our wetlands, on our forests, on our coastal areas, mountains. It's a reality. Now, we can't stop the growth. It's going to happen. I have a book called Growing a Better America, and I got the impetus out of a speech I used to give, and I would talk about the growth and the fact that we're going to have it. But is that growth going to be rapid, rampant, and reckless? Or can it be smart, strong, and sustainable? And I think that's what we need to focus on, ways that we can deal. Thank you. with the inevitable. It's inevitable. We're going to have the growth, but if we do it intelligently, with common sense, with science, with technology.
Minds like the people that we're
like the
honoring
people.
tonight.
Thank you. By the way, congratulations
Yeah.
to the 3 teams again.
So inspiring.
We need 330 million of you guys, and we'll be okay. No, it's really fascinating, and congratulations, and thank you for this program, and thank you, Prince William, for initiating this and for continuing it. This needs to keep going. We need more of this.
I'm curious because we have brilliant minds in this room and people in this room that want to make a difference. We started off talking about your music. You have a platform and a different level. You walk into a congressman's office, they want to talk to you about the Rolling Stones, but they're going to listen to you about a lot more. Have you been able to use your platform to make some inroads that maybe otherwise wouldn't?
Well, I hope so, Dana, to a degree anyway. You know, during the Bush administration, I was invited to testify about forestry, and I did that, and we were able to get, at the time, a legislative bill passed called the Healthy Forest Restoration Act, and that was a positive thing. So, you know, slowly but surely, and this election is so important, as we all know. And it's hard to say what the outcome's going to be, but you know, a lot of what we are dealing with our environment is going to depend on that election, and it's going to depend on the funding. You know, the U.S. Forest Service is kind of sitting there waiting, saying, what is our budget going to be for the next 4 years and beyond? So there's a lot of unknowns until at least we get past November, and then we can get a picture of what's going to happen. But, you know, yes, we can all do a little bit of something. You know, you can talk to your neighbors, you can plant a tree. You know, I had a dear friend that just passed away a couple of days ago, and every time we have a loss like that, there's a place you can go to plant a tree or a grove of trees. And, you know, let's talk about trees and forests in general for a moment.
Yeah.
What do they give us? Well, first of all, materials to make books, magazines, newspapers, packaging products, materials to build our homes, schools, churches, offices. New technologies include something called CLT, cross-laminated timber, which we can now build tall buildings using this technology. Glulam is another similar product that we can use. Trees are organic, they're natural, and most importantly, they are renewable. So we need trees for production, for forests, for building, for making all these things, but we also need trees to sequester our carbon. And we need trees for aesthetic value, our national forests, our national parks, our wildlife refuges, places that we can go. I loved Ralph Waldo Emerson's quote that in the woods we return to reason and faith. I think if we could take all our lawmakers and put them in the woods for those meetings, might get a better result.
Yeah, you're right. Do you feel that, I think for so many younger people, younger generations, obviously, as we say, it's the problem that we're going to leave them with.
Yes.
Are they in that forestry space? Are you seeing those younger generations?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm honestly not sure. I mean, I interact with a lot of universities that have great forest programs. University of Georgia has a great program, the Warnell School of Forest and Natural Resources. Auburn, Alabama has a great program. Duke has a great program. You know, out west they have their own different programs there. I don't see the enrollment going off the charts for those programs. And there's a lot of technology involved, which is great. You know, I have a forester that's a little older than I am, and he's old school. You know, he went to 4 years forestry school and goes out in the woods and does the field work, you know. And he told me a few years back, Chuck, they're just teaching them boys and girls computer forestry. They don't get them in the woods like, you know. And he's right. You know, we need people to get in the field and have that experience and look at what's happening on the ground. Yes, you need the technology, and that's great. You know, you want to have the satellites giving you the images of where the forests are. And, you know, one of the great things about that is you can see where illegal practices are being done, and you can identify that and hopefully do something about it. But it is a great question. Do we have enough people interested in that field that we feel comfortable going forward? I'd love to see more people engaged in it. But, hopefully we're going to make it okay.
Do you see a crossover ever in the music sphere and in your environmental work?
Well, I think there's a lot of artists that have this ethos, Bonnie Raitt is a great example. Jack Johnson has a studio built all of solar power. Jackson Browne is a great example. Don Henley, there's a lot of artists, not just musical, but art of any kind. I think that kind of goes along with the program. You care about the creative process, you care about the world, you care about the environment and the place that you're working in. So that's a good thing. Yeah. You have to be careful. Look at Bono, God bless him, I love him, but he gets up on that soapbox and after a while, it's like, where's the hook? Just sing the song, boy. So I try to do it in settings like this. I don't want to get up on stage with a band and try to preach that kind of stuff. I'm there to play music when it's that time to do that.
Of which he will, I promise. He will. Not yet, but he will, I promise. So we have some questions from the audience, because usually, I can sit here, I could talk to you forever, but I think some of these are better than what I was even thinking. Any chance you might reunite Sea Level?
Oh, goodness me. Thank you for that, because Sea Level, we had about a 5-year run. This was out of the ashes, if you will, of the Allman Brothers Band. We created this band, Sea Level. 3 of us were actually in the Allman Brothers in the original Sea Level band.
And that's how your last name was supposed to be.
Yes.
Level, by the way, for those who don't know.
Well, that's right. My family and cousins and my dad, mom, they all said Level.
Right.
I was a Level growing up. But when I joined the Allman Brothers Band, Greg and Dickie didn't like doing interviews, and so they pointed to me, well, you're new in the band, you go do these interviews. And I'd go to the radio stations, and the guy would say, hey, we have Chuck Leavell here, and I thought, that sounds a little better to me. So I just kind of went with it, But to answer about Sea Level, no, we're not going to ever be able to make that group happen again. One reason is because some of us are no longer here. But what we do is we celebrate the music when I do my solo shows, and I work with my dear, dear friend, Randall Bramlett, and if you don't know that name, you really should know it. He's one of the great singer-songwriters of our time, and he was in Sea Level, and he and I are still great friends, and we work together, so we'll do Sea Level music from time to time. Maybe I'll do a Sea Level song, you want?
Anything's possible. How does your environmental work influence your music?
Well, oftentimes when I'm in the woods, walking, peace, quiet, and you hear the sound of the wind through the pine needles and the crunch of leaves underfoot, and you hear the call of songbirds, that's all music. That's all music, and when we go back to talking about my mom, one of the things Mom did when I was very young that I'm so grateful for, she would say things, and you have to, again, remember I'm a 7-year-old kid, but she would say, well, Chuck, what would it sound like if there's a thunderstorm, a big storm outside? Oh, I'd rumble down on the low end, do some lightning strikes, And she'd say, well, what would it sound like if you hit a home run? Oh, do a big gliss, Now, what would it sound like if you were mad at one of your friends? Boom, So music, you have to learn the notes, you have to learn the chords, and you have to learn all of that stuff. But music is about feelings, emotions, colors. And so when you ask about how does the environment affect me, when I'm out there in the woods, I'm hearing all that music.
I'm thinking, Stephen, is that part of learning how to play? Does it have a section like that? Because that could be the lesson to take home. Sorry. This is a really great question. I'm sort of going to add to it. It's curious about how you inspire young people to tackle climate change, or any people actually, but especially there are people who just don't believe. You say it and right away they shut you down. And I have to believe you probably even have fans who are, there's no way, I love his music, but no, he's wrong. So
there are Republicans that come to our shows.
Exactly. I was trying not to make it partisan, but there's some people out there, I'm sure. But so how do you inspire people, especially those that just don't think it's a problem or exists? Is there a workaround on that?
That's tough. I mean, I think, well, in my case, through the books that I've written and through the appearances that I'm able to do like this, sometimes I do appearances at schools, grade schools, middle schools, high schools, and of course they want to talk about music, and I do that, but there's usually a conversation to do with the environment as well. Hopefully through the educational system in general, that this is a subject matter that I don't know if it's being discussed that much, but it certainly should be discussed, and especially for young children. I mean, that's the reason I wrote the little children's book, The Tree Farmer, because I realized in this process that you cannot start this knowledge too young. I mean, you have to start as young as you possibly can to get them in tune with the outdoors. What was the author that talked about nature deficit disorder? I forget the author. He had a book that, I thought it was a great phrase, because a lot of children don't get out into the woods as they should. And so that's another thing, by the way, is just trying to get them into a national park or into a beautiful area. Because once you're there, you feel it, don't you? Once you're in those woods.
You don't want to lose it.
Or you're in the mountaintop, or you're at the shoreline, beautiful, and you just feel it. So I don't know. But I would point to the educational system. I hope that environmentalism is being taught, I hope.
If you ever are feeling down about the future of our planet, what, I guess, brings you back up? How do you inspire yourself and maybe inspire others if they're feeling down, like it's too much to tackle?
Well, I don't think it's too much to tackle. I mean, look at this event. Look at this program, Earthshot. We can tackle it. It can be done. The glass is half full, for sure. I mean, the good news in forestry, we've been stable with our number of forests and acres in this country for a long time, for probably 100 years or so. We've maintained the same amount of forest cover. Before European settlement, it's estimated that there was a little bit over 1 billion acres of forest land in the United States. Through all this time, about 300 million has been cleared. Development, agriculture, other reasons, and so the fact that we're now about 800 million acres, that's not bad. That's not bad given 333 million on our shores. So I think that's a good sign that we can do this. We can maintain our forest cover. We can go to solar. We can go to wind. I think we have to be careful. Look, I live right next door to the largest solar farm east of the Mississippi. I love solar. I think it's brilliant. But they displaced and deforested 3,000 acres to put these panels in. I'm not sure that's the right thing. I mean, to the side of airfields, certainly in the desert, some places next to the interstate.
They also have, here we've done stories, they've got ag land here that is not being used for other purposes because of some of the climate change, so they're bringing those solar panels into that land and using it also for animals grazing and that purpose, so sort of repurposing.
It has to be, it goes back to smart, strong, sustainable. You want to use that technology, you want the wind farms, but you want to be careful how you use it and use common sense and do it in the right way. But those are good things. Hey, 20 years ago, were we talking much about solar and wind? No. Not like this. Did we have this many electric vehicles that we have now? These are positive signs.
That you have needs for plugs in big cities?
Yeah, exactly. And so when you ask about the hope factor, that's the hope factor. We are doing some really good things.
Is there any one last thing you'd want to leave everybody with before I force you to play some music for everyone?
Well, I want to thank the Kennedy Center here and thank all of you that are doing this great innovative technology, and for all of you that are supporting it. thank you. We need your support. We need to keep moving this thing forward in the right way. You know, go out there and vote. I won't say how you should vote, but I want you to vote and vote your conscience. And keep an eye on your, not just our national government, but your local, regional governments. Very important to be in tune, even on the local level, because that's where it really all begins, right? So just be conscious of these things. Pay attention, you know, watch Saturday morning.
Watch CBS.
Watch the great segments that you do.
We
with
do
CBS.
try to do, in fairness, it's a plug, but it's not. Our thing with our climate segments is find the positive. Instead, there are problems out there. You're never going to convince the person that doesn't believe it. So show some of the solutions and how you can change.
That's right.
So,
and thank you.
I'm sure other networks do too.
Oh, good stuff. Well, I'm enjoying
Yeah,
this.
that was
immensely.
wonderful.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely wonderful.
Great conversation. Well,
so I am going to share.